Customer Relationship Marketing, Part 1. Here are the learning outcomes for this section. We're going to define the concept of CRM. We'll do an introduction to market exchanges versus collaborative exchanges, and we'll look at the transaction relationship continuum. We're going to look at two different uses of the acronym CRM. First of all, referring to it as Customer Relationship Marketing, what Buttle describes as the development and maintenance of mutually beneficial long-term relationships with strategically significant customers. Now, the strategic significance of these customers could be that they are, say, the most profitable, or they may be the biggest and most prestigious customers from among our overall customer group. For example, if the royal family is among your customers. Or maybe it's the customer group with the most long-term potential. For example, students are often targeted because businesses want to develop profitable relationships with them over their life course as they move into professional jobs. So customer relationship marketing goes beyond simple customer service behaviors. It means thinking about customers strategically, and it attempts to anticipate customer requirements rather than simply meeting what requirements you see in the here and now. An alternative use of the acronym is a more applied use. So customer relationship management is an applied process that follows on from the strategic thinking of customer relationship marketing. So customer relationship management is described as this: an IT-enhanced value process which identifies, develops, integrates, and focuses the various competencies of the firm to the voice of the consumer in order to deliver long-term superior customer value at a profit to well-identified existing and potential customers. So you can see how that is a direct follow-on from the concept of customer relationship marketing. What we're going to see as we go through the CRM topic is how customer relationship marketing follows a life cycle. So the diagram here shows the model of CRM and business strategy and how they work together. There are three key phases: customer acquisition phase, customer retention phase, and then customer extension phase, trying to develop more opportunities from the customer base that you hold. And now we'll look at three contextual factors that relate to these stages. So in the customer acquisition stage, you're adopting a market orientation, looking to establish the needs of your customers and service those needs. CRM is all about using marketing principles to keep the customers that you acquire and segment them according to their various values, the value that they represent to you as a business. So that's where the development of the identification of strategically significant customers comes from. And customer retention leads to profitability, which leads to shareholder value creation. So you can see how contemporary business operations are underpinned by marketing philosophy. And when we get to the extension stage, trying to extend the relationships and maximize the opportunities that we draw from the relationships we have with our existing customers, that's where we can start to use technology to organize, automate, and synchronize business processes to increase efficiency and unlock opportunities. So that in this area of the cycle, we see information technology innovation being prominent. Going back to that definition, the development and maintenance of mutually beneficial long-term relationships with strategically significant customers, the important word is relationships. So what does that mean? It means thinking about customers in a strategic and long-term way. We're trying to anticipate future customer requirements rather than simply servicing the requirements that are evident or apparent to us at the moment. It's about servicing the right customers. So not all customers are created equal. That's why we focus on the strategically significant ones. But what do we really mean by a relationship? Because there are lots of different concepts relating to the term relationship when we think about them. Let's think about relationships in terms of exchanges. So in our literature, we look at the difference between market exchanges and collaborative exchanges. So a relationship is an ongoing series of exchanges. Relationship marketing is based on the principle that there is an ongoing history of exchanges and the expectation that there will be more exchanges in the future. Transactional marketing looks at each transaction as a one-off event, compared to relationship marketing, which takes the view that exchanges will take place over time and continue to do so. So this creates a distinction between the market idea of exchange and collaborative exchanges. Market exchanges happen when there is no prior history of exchange and it's unlikely that any future exchange is expected. That's the same as a transactional orientation to marketing. The focus is on price and product. There are 5 criteria by which we classify whether an exchange is a market exchange or a collaborative exchange. First of all, the length of relationship, which means does the consumer only transact once or twice, or is it an ongoing collaborative exchange? So in a market exchange, when the transaction is complete, there's no reference to previous transactions and no intent to look towards future ones. So it's short term and will have an abrupt end. A collaborative exchange will be long-term orientated and consider the relationship as a continuous process. The next of the 5 criteria is relational expectations. First of all, you see in the market exchange conflicts of goals. In terms of conflict, we could have conflict over our goals, as is mentioned on the screen, value versus profit, self-interest versus the organizational interest. In a market exchange, the organization will typically be looking to extract maximum revenue for profit, and the customer will be wanting to satisfy a need. So there's a principal conflict of goals there in that exchange. Say you're at a concert and you're hungry, so you buy a sandwich. The vendor of the sandwich is trying to maximize what they earn from the concert goers who are there that evening, and you just want to eat a tasty sandwich. That's it. So there are no future problems because there is no future for the relationship you've established commercially. Whereas my son goes to a private nursery, so although I'm paying for that nursery, I also want the nursery to flourish and treat its staff well, for example, so that my son gets the best possible care. So our goals are more aligned. But we may have differing ideas about what the right approach to that is and where exactly our priorities lie within our relationship. So that can result in conflicts of interest. And you see in collaborative exchanges, issues around conflicts of interest exist. We may want to defer payment because there is trust there, but that may create problems. But we can overcome problems by joint commitment because we have a relationship. The third criterion is communication. In a market exchange, it will be low frequency and formal dominant. So if you think about my sandwich example again, in the concert, you'll be asked what you want, you'll say what you want, and you'll be given it, and that's it. In a collaborative exchange, dialogue is frequent and will be more on a par, so it will be informal, dominant, and the exchanges you have will feel as though there's a sense of equality between the vendor and the purchaser. The fourth attribute is cooperation. In a market exchange, it's simple. There is no cooperation. It's simple, transactional, and there's no sense of interaction on the level of cooperation. In a collaborative exchange, you get what is known as co-creation, where there is a sense of joint cooperative projects between the organization and the customer. And the final attribute is responsibilities. In a market exchange, responsibilities will be distinct and defined by specific obligations and boundaries, whereas there's a much more fluid approach within a collaborative exchange, or what is moving towards a relationship. There will be a sense of shared responsibilities and shared obligations across the organization and the client. So that leads us to recognize the nature of exchanges as sitting on a continuum of exchange opportunities for organizations. And that continuum moves between transactional marketing on one end and relationship marketing on the other. In transactional marketing, the focus is on customer winning or creating new exchanges. So the focus tends to be on single individual sales, and in order to achieve that, there is a high focus in communications, for example, on product features. There are low switching costs for the consumer, so it's easy to find substitutes and switch to an alternative. So these transactional exchanges tend to be in commodities with low involvement, low risk products. So there's a short time scale, there's usually little customer service required, there's little customer loyalty, and there's moderate contact with the customer. So the main concern focuses on manufacturing quality. Anything that is fast-moving consumer goods, if you think of milk, that falls into transactional marketing. Conversely, at the other extreme of the continuum, relationship marketing is all about customer keeping. So you're trying to get a stream of sales and focusing on the prospect of multiple sales. It's usually with high involvement, high risk products where there are high switching costs in terms of decision making time, and there are often lack of substitutes and perhaps even barriers to changing if you're trying to exit from a contract, for example. So there's an emphasis on multiple sales. It's still a focus on product benefits, but they will be benefits that are embedded within the ongoing sales journey. It's usually over a long time scale, high levels of customer service, increased levels of customer loyalty. It's a much higher context environment, so there's much more contact and interaction between the vendor and the customer, and overall quality is the concern. That concludes part 1 of CRM. We've looked at the differences between transactional and relational exchanges. In transactional exchanges, we're focusing on maximizing value. It's usually short-term and customer winning orientated. In relational exchanges, we're looking at maximizing value over time. There's a likelihood of future income streams, and it's regarded as an ongoing process.